about it this morning and I was thinking, I have spent 25 years making gorgeous homes for clients and really thinking about how they live and creating a home that's specially theirs. And I've lived in a lot of beautiful homes. Don't get me wrong, super thankful. But in May of last year, we moved into really a home that is exactly who Tom and I are. And it has a lot of space and indoor space and outdoor space. And I've always wanted to throw like this party and have just a whole bunch of people at my house and have like my dream party. And my favorite holiday is Valentine's Day. So I am throwing my first huge girl party at my house for Galentine's. And so that's a win.
Okay,
I've been working on all sorts of things.
And spoiler alert, I get to go to the party, so I'm really excited.
I'm so excited.
Okay, that's
I mean, like personalized party favors, like the whole thing.
So you're going all in.
I'm going all in. Yeah.
Well, even just your silent disco party was in your, so not, like your house is absolutely family friendly and everybody can come around, but it's so entertaining.
Yes, that's the point. So is yours with the indoor inside out kind of vibe. Your house is so stunning as well. But I'm very excited about that. So that's a win for me.
Love that win.
Yeah. How about you?
So my win is I just came back from a great weekend with both getting to see and celebrate my mother. And Matt went with me and we had a ball, but then we tied it into helping out a client, a friend, and her husband has a really cool boutique hotel in San Clemente. It's been open for 10 years. And it's just, needs a little something. When it originated, it was a surf hotel. So they kind of went all in for the, themed vibe rooms and stuff. And they're trying to now cater to a different demographic and maybe not quite so surf related. And so that was really fun to do a consult with them.
Love that.
Nomad Hotel in San Clemente. Really cool. And so that was a win because it was just so fun to be able to do both. And it's always fun because you're in those places anyway. So it's like, what would I do? And it's the first time to get to play with a boutique hotel.
That's
so
exciting.
That changes,
I can't wait to see the befores and afters.
Oh
I've
gosh,
seen some
you
of the
saw some
befores. And cool. Wow, it's cool.
Super cool. Just a lot of color. And so we're just taking it down and notch 5. So
I can't wait to see what you do with that. That's a great win. About your mom, I was so glad that you got to go see her for her birthday. She is hands down our biggest cheerleader, I think.
Hands down.
And one of the things that she gave us is the
cupcake,
the little crystal cupcake that we always put on our set. So thank you, Mama Mona.
I know. Thank you, Mama. She's awesome.
She's amazing.
She's awesome.
So thank you so much for tuning in again with us. And we've had a little bit of feedback from some people. And so because of that, we're doing something new and kind of cool. This was your brainchild. So you want to share what we're doing?
I can't even take credit. My niece actually thought, because of course, everybody who can watch this can't see how beautiful this painting is behind us. So people have asked, what's above the shoulders kind of thing. And so my niece had an idea that maybe putting different local artists behind us in every episode would be kind of fun and showcase the art. As well as just having something different for you guys to look at. And so thank you, Amelia, for that. And this first one is a friend of mine, a dear friend. We've known each other since our kids were tiny. And she's been painting for years, but she's really taken it up a notch in the last few and has won awards. Her name is Pam Fairworn. And this one is from when the kids were little, from Go Texan Day, which all of these kids are all basically now in college. So it's very special. She can be followed at Pam Fairworn Art on Instagram. And then she's also at the Rosie Turnball Studio in Sawyer Yards. So
how do you spell her last name?
Ferworn. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So I would spend half a day trying to figure out this spelling. That would be me.
I know, and they're Canadian, so I always feel like I'm going to mess it up, even though but there's like a different,
how they pronounce.
So, but she's fantastic. She does watercolor. She does acrylic, and so, anyways.
Well,
This
it
will be
is
fun.
beautiful, and I think it's so timely because we're about to go into rodeo season here in Houston, and everything is going to be boots and denim, and we do not ride our horses to work in case people who are
No.
listening, in other parts of the world wanna know.
But during
We
that time,
could.
they are riding horses into town,
It's
and if
true.
you have never witnessed rodeo and them coming in and camping along the way,
It's
it is
special.
something. It really is.
It is
It really is.
special,
So,
and I think when once somebody, joins the trail ride, they do it for, like, the rest of their life, right? It's like a whole thing, gets in their blood, and
it
they just do it every year,
oh, I never even thought about
rain
that.
or
It's
shine.
really special.
Yep,
And then they end at the marathon or the 10K downtown, so it's cool.
exactly. Are you running this year?
I don't know if I can.
Hmm,
We'll see, but I'd like to.
still
It's a
nursing
fun one.
that little
That little
hitch in
nag,
your
that little
giddy up?
ditch in my giddy up. Ugh, boring.
So, one other thing that people have asked us a lot about is how we met, what our careers have been. What made us start a podcast when we started a podcast, just like they wanted to know more about our stories. And I think we sort of touched on that in the first episode, but I don't think we really went there hard.
Right?
And so we talked about maybe doing that for this
I
episode.
think it'd be kind of fun. Just show where we come from in our different trails to get here as we're on the
I like that.
rodeo. But you've said it so many times, like our paths were very different, but now we're in this really lovely alignment in
Mhm.
different ways. So it's kind of cool, be cool to hear really how I know the law stuff, but there's a whole chunk in between that.
In
But
between
good
those
to hear.
things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
So do you want to start?
well, no, you start.
No, you start.
No,
Okay. Let's how about let's Rochambeau and see who starts. You ready?
love it.
Okay,
Ready?
ready? One, two, three. Oh.
Oh, we're 2 out of 3 or no, 1. Okay, you
Well,
go.
you
Nope,
wanna do
you
2 out of
smashed my
3?
nope.
I smashed your scissors. I wanted you to be paper. Okay, so I'll start. I I was on track to do a law career and, did an about face when my husband, proposed to me when I was 17 because he was so worried that I'd go off to Baylor
Put a ring on it.
and meet someone else. So, as I like to say, like Beyonce, I told him if he liked it, he had to put a ring on it, and he did. And so at the ripe old age of 18 and 22, we got married, and, then I was still in college at HBU, Houston Baptist University here in Houston, which is now HCU. Yeah,
Changed.
they changed their name and, to be, I guess, more inclusive, and so, finished my degree, but before I did, we had a surprise, and I was pregnant with Miss Page, and so at 20, I had Paige, and then graduated from college at 21. Um and I got an education degree. You double majored there, so you got 2 degrees, and mine was education and history, and my specialization was in American history, so I'm a huge history buff, and that's why you'll find me at any museum or anything like that. I mean, I just love anything history, and had an amazing professor, Dr. Tucker, who just really inspired me. And she was such a lovely, lovely human being. And I really wanted to learn as much from her as I possibly could. So I took as many classes as I could from her and
Oh,
ended up with that second degree. So then had kiddos, as we do. I did a couple of part-time jobs along the way. We had a homeschool Paige for a short period of time because she is our oldest is like Mensa, like she's incredibly intelligent. And while that sounds like fun, it's a challenge. And it was even more of a challenge before we had things like computers and tablets and all of those
yeah.
things. So when we tried to put her in school, they wanted to move her ahead 2 years, and we were like, we can't do that." So I homeschooled for a little while, then I taught, like, in a homeschool co-op for a little while, then we moved into our home in Katy, and people started coming over and asking, "Who designed your house?" And I didn't understand what that meant, right? We've
Right,
talked about before, we didn't have HGTV.
right.
We didn't have all of those things. And so I didn't even know about interior designers. I don't even think I knew about the concept. Maybe I had a light idea, but,
Right.
so I started helping friends, and then I was like, "Okay, this is taking a lot of time. I think I'm gonna charge $20 an hour," and that's where I started, and copied all the receipts and gave all the receipts and, all of those
It's
things.
palpitating thinking
I
about it.
know, and in between that time, this is sort of a back and forth timeline, but my girls were going to into junior high. I have 3 girls right in a row. They're all 2 years apart, so they were starting their junior high scene, and I decided to go teach on their campus, and the reason I did that is because junior high is so hard for girls, I think, and I think it was both a blessing and a curse, right, to have your mom on
God,
campus.
I
Yeah.
bet that would
It was, yeah, and so I opened 2 different schools in a school district here in Houston and taught Texas history,
oh my
and so, that was a lot of fun. I did not teach the traditional way, like, you read through textbooks and answer questions and memorize maps and facts. We didn't do that.
okay.
We had, like, clay and we made symbols of the Alamo, and we, um, described why they were symbolic, or we took one side of an argument and prepared overnight, and then when they came back to class, they actually were assigned the opposite point of view and had to argue from the opposite point of view. Or we pretended that we were a classroom in Mexico when we talked about the Alamo and how would we retell the story differently. And so
Oh
that is
my
how I
gosh.
taught school because I was so bored by history going through school
Right.
until I got to college and it was taught in a way that was so meaningful. And so we didn't use textbooks in my classroom.
So, truly creating a completely different environment, like, just that
Exactly.
creator in you is in you, but I'd be
Exactly.
so curious how many students you saved them from thinking they weren't good at something
Yeah.
because they didn't learn it through a textbook and they learned it with their hands in this other way that
Yeah.
would be
All the
so
modalities.
special that you did it that way because people weren't doing that
Uh-huh.
kinesthetic
Yes.
way of teaching.
Yep.
That's why I was in the
Is that
bathroom
your
ditching.
modality?
That is, so I
Mhm.
would ditch class because I didn't have a teacher like that, so
Yeah.
I would anyways.
They didn't know what to do with me.
I
Even at this
bet.
sort of advanced district, they really didn't know exactly what to do with me, because I didn't always have tests that were handwritten and scored. I just did things differently, and so I had the gifted and talented kids, which also included the kiddos with Asperger's, and I just loved them to pieces, and if a student was completely bored and uninterested in what we were talking about, I would allow them to do something different. We would just have to agree on a presentation type thing for the class. And
Game
so
changing.
my class was different. People were allowed to stand in my class because some students learn by walking around. They could have gum in my class as long as it didn't end up under the desk. And so the last day of school, right? All the teachers are scraping gum off the bottom of their desks. I didn't have that problem because I just let the kids, I never referred anybody for discipline. And so that was just sort of taking a difference in a creativity, like you said,
Mhm.
into a different space. I loved teaching school. I loved the kiddos.
God.
And every once in a while, I'll still hear from one of them on social media or they'll send me a message and just tell me how much they appreciated what I did. And so
Well,
it
you
was a
reframed
special
the
time.
entire experience for
I did.
them, and then
I did.
and it bleeds into how you are in your with your clients as well, that mutual respect, and it
Mhm.
doesn't it's just the respect the process and how it works for each individual. It's how you bring it here,
Yeah, and
so
how they're hearing things,
yeah.
right? Not how you mean for them to be heard, but how are they hearing
Yeah,
things?
perception.
And I really watch for body language and cues a lot. I'm very in tune to that because I want for people to feel included, understood, heard, those sorts of things. But I love what I did, and I left the classroom and went. Well, I made the decision. My husband had worked at a sort of .com type company in Austin. So he was going back and forth between Houston and Austin at the time. And they decided to not go to the second part or the second funding of the company. So he got a severance.
Mm.
And I decided that summer, which was in 2008 when we had a market crash, to then go full time in interior design. I'd been doing it for years on the side,
Mm.
after school, summers, Christmas vacation. And I didn't know it at the time, but what I was doing was building this network and this knowledge base and a vendor base. And so when I decided to go full time, it was it was seamless, like it was all there.
Right.
And I really didn't do that on purpose. And I had a client that just said, I want you to do this entire project for me. The timing of it, it's like the universe let me know it was the right time. And so I was working on the floor of my home office, and our garage became our receiving place. And I wish I had a picture of that garage, actually. It was something. It was I'm just gonna tell you,
Not sure what that something is, but
it
it's
was
something.
something. Like, you didn't wanna open the garage door, right? And it wasn't that it was junk. These were precious things
Right.
stacked up because I didn't know about commercial receivers. I didn't know about how all of that worked, and so I was receiving stuff at my home. And eventually it became very clear that that was no longer doable. When it started going from the garage into the house, it's like, oh, this isn't doable anymore.
This doesn't have the teeth it used to. We need to
Exactly.
pivot.
Exactly. So it was a Sunday afternoon. I remember it very clearly. And I decided that it was time to get like a space. I don't know. Didn't know exactly what that meant, but a space. And I happened to Google online and found the Houston Design Center. Never knew that the Houston Design Center existed. Um, Contacted the name of the person that was on the listing, the agent that was on the listing, and he said, I'll meet you there. I have a space I'd like to show you." And I think the next day, that Monday, we signed on a little bitty, it was less than 1,000 square feet, um, space. And that sort of began, that was there are different times in your career that you can look and you can go, that was a game changer.
Yes.
So I know you know what I'm talking about. That was a game
Getting
changer when then people came to, I didn't have to meet them at their home or out in vendor showrooms. They were able to come to my studio. And there's something that comes with that. So that was a game changer for me. And right after that, I got just this ginormous project down on the coast. And that project won every award in the show homes, that the showcase that year. We just won everything.
oh my god.
And then that began sort of a stint of me being down on the Houston Intercoastal,
Okay.
designing sort of coastal homes, right? And that was a game changer again. And then we were buying so much furniture, Casey. At this time, I knew about commercial receivers. I knew about how all that worked. And so I decided, I'm buying so much furniture, I should have a furniture showroom, right? And so in the Houston Design
Mm.
Center, there was a 5,000 square foot space that came available, and we opened our own furniture showroom. And about 2 years later, COVID, I even hate saying the word,
I know.
happened, but I did not love the furniture business for a lot of reasons, which I will not bore anybody with, but I just decided that that was not for me.
Okay.
It just wasn't for me. So we made it through COVID, where lead times, before COVID, we would order a sofa and we'd get it in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe 12. But during COVID, the lead time went all the way to a year. And so it was
It's
awful. And
awful.
even though you told people it was gonna be a year, after about 6 months, they started getting wound up. And you're like, "Well, right here, we wrote this on your invoice that you signed. It's going to be a year. We're at 6 months. So I was so ready to get out of that business. Glad I tried it. I learned so much about the furniture world.
And you
Uh,
guys had such a beautiful showroom. Let's just
you're
give you
sweet.
and you rebranded after because it was
Yep.
Off-White,
Hmm.
right? Is that the original name? Because
Yep.
that's when I f
It was Off White, and
okay.
now I think Off White is a rapper. I think I think it's a rapper, which it's a great
Okay.
name. It was Off-White, and then we went to RR Home in the journey of trying to figure out the branding and how it all fit
Right.
together. Also understanding sort of some business and tax ramifications of a business. I mean, there's so much about owning a business that people don't talk about. Am I right?
You are just singing the preaching to the choir right now on that one because
Mhm.
there are all the ins and outs. And at the time, and I don't mean if, but your husband
Mhm.
and daughter
Mhm.
were both there as
Yes.
well. So this was truly
A family
a family
business. Yeah, that
business.
was my older daughter. She was kind of between jobs and was there for a while. And I'm glad that you said that because my husband, another major point in my career, sort of a game changer, is before we opened the furniture showroom. I was designing these beautiful spaces, right? These beautiful remodels, these beautiful spaces, and delivering, here's your design, right? Here's all the things. And of course, I was committed to the journey with the clients as they went through this. And um, i- a contractor would maybe leave with their money or not show up for 6 weeks at a time or use inferior products or decide that they were the designer and completely make design decisions without consulting me or the homeowner. And so I would watch these projects that had so much hope and so much good stuff just literally be flushed down the toilet and end up just in the dumps, right? And as we all know, this is part of the human condition. If a project goes bad, everybody goes down with it. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if you were culpable or not, right?
Yeah,
Everybody goes down.
good word.
So
Sorry.
I just said, Something's got to change. I am going to start finding contractors and I am going to start being the general contractor on these projects. I'm going to figure it out." Again, another major pivotal point in my career. When I did that and people saw somebody on site every day and it was clean and it ran the way it was supposed to and
Right.
the design happened the way it was supposed to and not perfect. I mean, there's nothing about remodel that's
Yeah.
perfect, right?
Uh,
Can we be real?
can we just
Yeah.
there's not gonna it's not. But
It's not, but it was awesome, and the clients loved it, so business exploded to the point where my husband made the decision to leave his career, and now he runs our remodeling crews and takes care of the back office. I have to tell you one of the things that I mean, I just literally sucked at, and that was billing. I would go months without billing anybody a single dime because it wasn't about the money for me. It was about the journey and the process of design.
mm,
And my husband would go, the account is like really low. So I'd go, oh my God, oh God, oh God. And I would sit down and just try my best. I had no PO system, no back office, anything. I'm sure with as organized as you are, you probably did from the very beginning. Is that a no?
oh my gosh, it's the biggest no ever, but yeah, we
Okay.
can yeah.
You'll get into that?
Yeah, but to that point, I can't even and
Yeah.
then you're trying to
Yeah, trying to remember
remember.
all the things and all the pricing, and I would send out these invoices and then just hope that somebody paid quickly. I talked about that more
Right.
in our mentor podcast, but with him on board taking care of that back office stuff and setting up a PO system and running our crews, it really has allowed for a great thing. We during the furniture showroom phase ended up with a big staff, lots of employees. Turns out that's not for me either. I'm
Right.
better with a smaller team. And so we currently have Tom running the cruise still. I'm principal of the firm. Reagan is our middle daughter. She's a degreed interior designer, super talented.
Fantastic.
She's here.
And a
And
badass
then
voice.
Connor. who is a designer who loves back office and all of the details, so he runs our operations side as well.
If we could all have a
Yeah,
Connor. Oh my
if we could all
gosh.
have a Connor. And then, of course, I have Holly on our team who runs our social media. Nobody would have anything on our social media without Holly. And when I hired her, I said, "You're going to have to really stay on me for what it is you want and need." And she also pressed me to start doing videos, which I started doing last year. Super uncomfortable, super don't claim to be good at it. But on site, we film what's actually going on there. And we've gotten a great response from that because people like to see the
People love to
BTS.
see the
Uh
BTS.
huh.
The pictures are great, but I think people are ready for how did you get the final picture? And your
Exactly.
videos have been, I love watching them. I get inspired
You're sweet for that.
because I, no, I'm serious. Like, I love the walkthroughs of anything because you don't know
Mm-mm.
why that divider wall was put in, like, just certain spaces that you maybe weren't planning on or whatever you're really honest about and
Yeah.
sharing. And there are always opportunities for creativity when there's a, like, "Oh, crap, we didn't plan for that.
Right.
How do we make it?" And I love how you point that stuff out. It's always fun.
Exactly, and so sometimes we really don't know what we're gonna do. We have to call in the structural engineer and the electrician and the plumber, and we have to figure something out, but that's also the fun part for me. And so then that brings me to meeting you. There was a group of, well, actually, Lindsay Root, who is part of, I believe, the marketing team. I'm not sure what her official title is now at
I know Ferguson.
Ferguson
But
Enterprises
we'd be remiss to not point out she's the president of our Badass Bitches
Lunch
Lunch Group.
Club.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's
So
her.
she put together a group of, there's 9 of us. Most of us are designers, but there's a couple of industry partners, and we are the Badass Designer Lunch Bitches. And we try to meet once a month. Or if somebody, we're all at a funeral of one of our dear friends, one of the members' dads passed away. So we went there. We support each other. We have a group text. So if you need to, you're like, I need to know where to supply a butcher block for an island. And we send out the all call, and somebody always knows. How do you do this? What does your latest contract look like? I have a client that's doing this with me and it's feeling not the way I think it should. How should I handle it? Um,
How do I throw that client into junk mail?
right.
That
How do I,
100
how do,
recent experience.
yeah, how do I put that in spam? And so we've been super, super supportive of each other, which I think is not always true in the design industry across the board. And but for us, it's been different,
Yeah, our
and
community is different.
it's been different.
We
And
were asked like, even on the bus, and that's a whole different story, but they were saying, "Oh, are you guys competitors?" Because it
oh,
was
in
you,
Mexico,
Kathy,
mhm,
myself, was Jen, and Jennifer Kizzy, and
yeah,
they were asking, and we're like, "No, not we're friends and community," but
and even
and
refer
that group, yeah,
clients if they're not a good fit. It's like, no, but please go here.
yes,
And this
this
person
person's fantastic,
is
or I can't
amazing
take it.
for you.
Yeah, so I think we don't have that, and maybe because
Mhm.
Houston is such there's just such a robust clientele here that
Yeah.
there's plenty of work, and to point out the Texas versus a lot of other things, and I'm not from Texas, so it's not that, but you said you started becoming your own GC because you couldn't find it, and you can't do that in most states,
Right.
but we are the wild, wild west over here,
Mhm.
and you can become a general contract. You can GC projects
Yeah,
without being licensed and all of that stuff.
I highly suggest that you are highly insured when you
Yes,
do
when you
that,
do
which
that,
we
make sure there's
are.
insurance and that you
Yeah.
people you're bringing in, your
Yeah.
trades are insured as well and
Yeah.
are licensed, especially electricians, so
Yeah.
on, but
And you
it
have
just
stamped
allows a different,
plans
yes,
and
so
all
there's,
of those things.
yeah, but you
Mhm.
can,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen everywhere that you can kind of take that on, so it's exciting
We're
if that's
lucky
the
here
direction,
for
yeah,
that.
there's a lot.
Yeah. So, as part of the bitches, you have a studio here in the design center too, and we sort of were friendly and would, hey, hi, how are you? And I always, from the second I met you, your energy was infectious.
Mm.
And I am reminded of the book, and I forget who the author is. Forgive me. I think it might be Joyce, but it's called Basement People and Balcony People. And the gist is that every single person you interact with in this world I don't care if it's the person checking out your groceries at the grocery store, or if it's a client, or it's your spouse. Every person that you interact with, you leave feeling better about life or worse about life. You cannot feel the same because we are live beings interacting. And every single time I interacted with you, I felt better about life, and that is still true to this day. Even when
Sidebar
you and
yesterday.
I you no,
No, it's
even
really funny.
even when you and I are not at our best. And
Yeah.
yesterday, prepping for podcast, you had taken some medication that was, I don't
I
know.
was roofied. I'd like everybody to know it was basically like being roofied, and I know because that happened, but that's a whole nother podcast. It was so sad, and poor Rainey was like, "What else can I help you do? Because you're a shit show. You pull yourself together, sister." And I'm like,
I
"I
just
don't
had
know what happened."
I had just never seen you like that before. Now me, I've been like that. You've seen that and you're like, "She's gonna get it together. She'll be fine." But you, I was like, "Oh." No, it was still a great meeting and, still a balcony person.
Yeah.
And so when I had the idea that I mean, when we engage with clients, I think a lot of people don't know it's for like a year and a half. So it's a really long life cycle of a project, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 3 years on the Colorado project. And so I started thinking, as a 53-year-old woman, how long do you engage people where you're committing to a year, year and a half, or 3
Such a great
years?
point. Oh my god.
And so started thinking about what would be next. And you and I have talked about this. It is shocking how much we know and have learned over our decades in this industry.
Yeah.
And so I met with you and just said, what if we did something? And we talked to some people that are way smarter than we are. And
Truth Works, let's just bring them
at
into it
Truth
because
Works,
thank you,
Michael Yoder at Truth
Michael,
Works. Oh my
Seth,
God, a
McKenna, that whole
saint,
crew. Thank you
all
guys
of them.
all.
And the idea was that we could do a podcast together. And really, it's complimentary because I'm a little more straight-laced and all of the things, and you're so much more creative and free-spirited. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback about sort of what we bring.
Right.
And so that's how we're here. That's the story
And that was
that brought me here. So, and I'm so glad. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So,
so nice.
no,
And the
I wouldn't.
feedback has been so fun because, and it's nice you said yours was straight laced and mine's more creative. I heard wonderful, you know, Rainey is so well spoken. Rainey has such poise. You can tell that she would have been a lawyer and all these things. And then my favorite feedback that I got was that I was methy. And I said, messy? I thought it was a lisp. And my brother doesn't lisp, but thank you, Corey. He said, no, methy. Like you're just like all on meth and like touching your hair. And I burst out laughing. And but it led to a wonderful conversation with him, which is you can only be my supporter. But no, it
I love
was,
that.
but it's true because you are so comfortable and competent in your chair. And this is not, yeah. So
And I see it.
it's
I see you differently than you see yourself.
so funny
And
that
you see me differently than I see
feedbacks.
myself.
Isn't that
And
about
yeah, and as our team has told us, we're always going to be our biggest critics, right?
yeah,
And
that's
there's
true.
something
Yeah.
that's good about that, I think.
Yeah. We're yin and yanging
The
our
yin and
asses off.
yang.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly
Oh my
right. So I can't wait. I know bits and pieces of your story, but I've never heard you tell it sort of from the
soup
beginning.
to nuts.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Wait, no, I might have a question or two for you though.
Okay.
There's grandchildren in there.
Oh, yeah. Got those grandchildren, my 3 favorite people in the world, and I have 11-year-old granddaughter, Emerson, and then twin grandsons, Asa and Shepherd, and, they're the light of my life.
And just
Yeah.
yeah, and you're such a they call you what again?
You know I love to say it. They call me Glammy.
I
No,
mean,
they call me Glammy.
it's so
Yeah,
good. No, it
yeah.
used to be glammy.
When they're being toots, they'll go glommy. And I'm like, well, I don't know a glommy that buys you great things and has fun with you. So they're like, okay, okay, okay.
Back to glammy.
So, yep,
No, I
that.
love that.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So grandkids were splashed in there, and we're never done being mom,
Yeah.
and then grandmother and wife along the way. So yeah.
That's such a
So tell us all about you.
ugh, okay. So grew grew up in was born in Phoenix, grew up there. My parents were divorced, but I had, great relationship with both sides. But saying that, you know, my dad was in construction. He was a sheet metal worker for years. So I watched him, you know, up at dark getting, you know, and in Phoenix, that's not an easy thing to be doing. He followed my grandpa in that journey, in his footsteps. But and then my mom, being a single mom, she did, you know, she had to do what she could, and she was an entrepreneurial spirit. My God, that woman um, had all kinds of businesses. So in order for us to really live in places that she felt comfortable with us in, she would move us around quite a bit. She'd find a place, was just dodgy as all hell, and then redo it, and sold a couple like that, like literally flipped houses. And then one of my favorites was that there was a house, we had rented a house for a small time that was about to get torn down, and it was the most beautiful house I'd ever lived in. It,
And where was
it was in
this?
Phoenix. It was a
Mm.
2-story red brick with a balcony. It was totally colonial, gorgeous.
Ugh.
Had stairs, for goodness sakes, and not like up to an apartment. It was like stairs, you know. And we shared it with another family, her best friend and her two kids, Tony and Natalie, and then Corey and myself. And they had a pool, and it was the house I was like, this is what I want to be in forever, you know. So,
Mm.
it just allowed for that next, you know, what you can envision as a kid. And then my grandparents had a gorgeous home. So, you know, just getting to see that, because that wasn't necessarily what we always had.
Mm.
But when we left there, because it got torn down, my mom needed a place for us to land. And so there was a house that was vacant, and she went to the city, this is before computers, and found out who owned it, got in touch with them, said, I can, at a reduced rent, fix up your place. I'll do X, Y, and Z for it, landscape and all this stuff. And she was just crafty as hell. And she made it beautiful. And we had a great time there too. And then it was time, and we loaded up a moving van, and her and I moved to San Diego. She made the leap. And so we moved, headed to California. And so that was a whole journey in all of it in itself. So when I ultimately graduated from high school, I was living with my dad at the time. I had gotten in a heap of trouble in San Diego with my mom, and just she was at her wits' end. And I think I was probably ready for some structure. My dad was very structured.
Mm.
He and my stepmom had a beautiful home. They, you know, it was just a little bit different life. And so after just messing up for the very last time, getting caught shoplifting, which, you know, whatever, I got sent to my dad's for my senior year, which is, you know, a whole different thing. I went to 5 different high schools, so this was my final. So each one, I sort of reinvented myself, right? I was like, I even changed the way I spelled my name. I had like kept finding pieces of myself that I maybe wasn't as fond of, and so I'd be like, well, maybe this will be more, you know, popular to people if I am more like this. Like, so I kind of chameleoned myself for a while. And it worked out great, because then I met so many different people, and did really ultimately come to find out who I'm comfortable in being, but also who I want to be around. And that's pretty much everybody. It was so clicky then,
Mhm.
right? So I kind of was like,
You fit in
you know,
every
I
single
fit in
group?
every single group. So
Mhm.
Matt and I call it Misfit Island, but it's kind of who we, you know. So found that out, and moved back after graduating, back to San Diego. And something that happened during that time, my parents ultimately separated. My dad and my stepmom, and my stepmom had she was a wonderful designer. She didn't do it by trade, but she had great taste. And she was moving out, so
Wow.
that was tough. And she had asked the day before. She told me what was happening the day before, or 2 days before, maybe, my dad and I were heading back to San Diego. And she said that, with me taking all the furniture, can you just kind of help me rearrange and make it not so hard for when your dad gets home from work today? And I still remember that feeling to this day, of like, what that felt like, and being a fixer, right? Like, let's do it, whatever. And I still don't remember what my dad's reaction was, to be honest. I think I might have blocked that out.
Ugh, I wanna hug you.
Having that be something that was very impactful for me, it really taught me how everybody really needs to live in a space that is taking them into consideration, and really take it's their home, right? And so
Mhm.
when coming home to whatever that home looks like,
Mhm.
it can be beautiful, or it can be devastating. So, you know, it took me until m- many years later, when I was working with coaching, and kind of deciding what my ideal client was, and a lot of it times it tends to be separated or newly divorced fathers with children and all this, and it kind of, I mean, I love all clients, do not get me wrong, but that one, so I kind of went back to maybe why that one touched so strongly for me, is making those spaces so special for those kids when they, have an upheaval a bit in their home and life. And so, ha you know, so that was kind of this very pivotal moment, but I didn't know what it was putting into my brain until much later because, again, like we talked about, I didn't know that that existed. I knew
Interior design,
interior
yeah.
design as a profession. It was
Yeah.
just I had 2 moms who were really talented in their own ways, but that wasn't something they were making money doing. So, um, I took a lot of hard roads, after that, and tried community college. That was not for me. I, uh, failed every class except for world religion, which I'm obsessed with religions. And so that one, and, accounting I did well in, which is strange. And so I spiraled, and my mom came home one day and gave me 3 brochures and said, "If you don't pick one of these places to go to school, you're out on the street in 2 weeks." Like, that it was that
Wow.
gnarly. And one of them was cosmetology school, one of them was dental hygienist, which to all those
Can't.
out there, you are my heroes.
Mhm.
And the other was paralegal, which I loved, but I didn't think I wanted. Um, and so I signed up for the cosmetology school and went to beauty school and just loved it. Had a ball, did hair for almost 10 years, traveled, got certified in all kinds of things, and had a great group of friends and had a really good life with that. It's amazing for people who maybe college isn't their path, right? Um,
And much needed. We appreciate our
we need
hairdressers.
our hair. I need one right now, which is why
Need.
I'm trying not to mess with my hair because I'm trying to part away the gray because I didn't get into mine. But so that part was really started the journey onto then how I got here into interior design, which was a client that I was working on when I moved from from San Diego up to San Francisco in my mid-20s.
Mhm.
By then I had gotten into running a lot. I had quit the unhealthy lifestyle of smoking and possibly of
All the other
all the other
things.
things that are unhealthy, and traded one addiction for another, and started doing triathlons and yeah, in my early 20s. And it was just hard to detach from being that person, right? My friends knew me as the partier, not the one who wakes up at 5, the one who went to bed at 5. So,
Mm.
I had to really just, again, reinvent myself, and so that meant moving away, and so I took myself up to San Francisco and worked 3 jobs and did some to make that work. Um, and then had a client ultimately who was in design school. And so she was talking about a project that she was very upset about, and I thought it sounded amazing. So I went that day and applied at FIDM down in the city and got in. And so then I had like 4 jobs because school and that. And, um,
It's
but
amazing.
it was fun. And then I became a nanny during it and met my husband. Well, now he's my husband.
Didn't you meet him on, like, a street corner?
Met him on a street corner. Yes, I
Mhm.
did. Left
Yeah.
my number
You
because he
weren't
was
standing on the y'all were just crossing the
I was
street.
crossing the street as a nanny. Can I just paint the picture? At the time, I was 26, training for my first marathon. I was a nanny. Just all of it was just not what I thought I'd be doing at 26. I thought it'd be far, far along, not pushing another baby. And yeah, he was cute and had this je ne sais quoi and fun music playing. And we talked on a street corner for a bit. And I left my name and number on his car and went,
Thank God you left your name and number on his
can you
car.
imagine? I mean,
You wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here. I would be doing something in San Francisco
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
And our life took a whole different turn. And we moved to Hong Kong, where I got to work for an architect in Hong Kong, which was insane. Traveled all over Asia doing that. They did beautiful commercial work. And so, but also learned I didn't love commercial. But at that time, kind of talk about the wild, wild west. Oh my gosh, what you can do in Hong Kong.
Uh,
There's no OSHA. I mean, they
no limit.
literally fill the ocean for land and then build onto. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. But in that, everything was possible. Everything was could be done. We were putting metal in between glass for bars before, that is now
Before that was
happening.
a
But
thing.
yeah, and so working in Hong Kong was so many learning experiences for so many reasons. And because I was there as a girlfriend, not a wife, I didn't have a work visa, which is how I got this job with this particular builder and our architect. And he was a little hard to work for. It's when I finally realized people can be right and left-brained because he was both brilliant in business and
And
creative.
creative, wow.
That is a really hard combination to work for.
Mm.
And he was a Westerner, he was American, and so the whole office staff was, Hong Kongese. So telling somebody in Hong Kong, to think outside the box,
Mm.
not a thing.
Not a thing.
That's it. So
We're not
cultures are
thinking.
very different. Obviously, it's a different entity, but just in every aspect, you really learn maybe why some of his frustration because we learn different here. And so, anyways, that was interesting, and I got some great opportunities because of it because he couldn't hang on to Western help very well because of his brain.
Mhm. His whole
Brain
brain. Yeah.
explosions. And so then I went on to work for a vendor there and actually still love their stuff, Jeb. Really beautiful things. So Matt and I ended up moving from there to Singapore. I was pregnant with Josh, and I still wanted to work because I've worked since I was 18. And so found a designer there to work for. And she's actually a Dallas designer, big time. Keaton Interiors is hers. And she had, she was there with her husband's company. So I started with her, and she was more decor. And I'd never done that. I'd never been around that. I didn't know what a $200 pillow was.
Mm.
All of that stuff was just not ever in my
Now you
periphery.
do.
Now I know. I don't know if I think it's right, but I know. But so then I learned all about textiles and, oh my gosh, Jim Thompson and Dongia, all these insane
Wow. Textile
textile
companies.
companies in Thailand and all these places. So I'd
Wow.
travel there, and Matt and I traveled so much anyway. So we'd go and we'd really see it all. And so that just really saturated my brain for that softer side. But so then when we ultimately moved to Texas, which it was hard. He's a California guy, or at least West Coast, myself as well. So we got to Texas. We went to Dallas for long enough to just have a baby, Jake Brand. And then we were only there 7 months and came here. And from there, I started Cassandra Brand Interiors. So small as possible. Friend's front door, picking like paint colors.
You have to always say, whenever you tell that story, you say, I was out there sweating my balls off in July.
Sweating balls, mosquitoes, doing this. And like, oh
Picking a
my
paint color.
God, I was just in Hong Kong on a 30-foot, elevator trying to figure out, AutoCAD's
And this is
floor
where you are
plan. And
now.
now I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But we do what we got to do. I learned from all my parents. You work. So it started real small and had the babies. And so they learned what high fashion home was very early. We would go pick, that was when it was almost only fabric.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
4 stories of fabric.
4 stories of fabulousness,
Yeah.
really, because it's
Yeah.
it is a great resource here.
It really is.
But like you, I saved all my receipts in a little monogrammed,
Yep.
envelope, and then would be like billing, just so nervous to send my hours to people, and because ultimately somebody would balk. I charge it all on the front end, and then
How
pray
much
that
did
they
you
pay
start
us.
charging an hour?
35 an hour.
Oh, you were big
I was
time.
kind of a big deal.
Huge.
Kind of a big, huge deal.
Mhm.
And then it kind of crept up, right?
Mhm.
And then when I got to 75, I think when I stopped doing hair, I was charging 100 for a haircut. So I hadn't even gotten up to that haircut level, but I was getting there. But it just took, and I didn't know a lot of people, and I asked people how they were doing it, and it didn't get a lot of answers. I'm not from here, and Houston is people know each other, and so they kind of, it's sort of hard to break in sometimes. And
Yep.
nice people, but they do stick, So it was hard to kind of be that person who was I was needy. I needed clients. I needed help. And I didn't know how to be that person.
Mhm.
So it took me longer, probably. I should have asked more questions. Really wish I had. But ultimately, it led me to where I am. And so we flooded during Harvey, fast forward to all these years, and business got much busier.
Yep.
Kids went to school, and I started charging $150 an hour, whatever. But then Harvey hit, and we flooded as well as our entire area. And so in the midst of that, I forget how many houses I counted, maybe 35 houses or something I was helping with, as well as putting our
Wow.
own back together during that next year and a half. And I was burnt. And and like you were saying, I had an office out of my house. And so schlepping tile, it's not glamorous.
It's not glam I
So
remember seeing you in the parking lot one day, and you were carrying a piece of art, and I rolled down the window. This is before we were officially friends,
right?
right? And I rolled down the window and you go, "Isn't this glamorous?" And you're hauling this piece of art, and it's like that piece of art is probably hanging in somebody's exquisite house right now. They have no idea the care that you took in transporting it
Oh, and
through
not care.
120-degree weather. I don't know.
I'm like, "That's why it showed up like that." No,
Uh-huh,
isn't that so crazy? But
uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, that's it.
It's what
We
we
are
do.
personal
We're
schleppers.
schleppers, yep.
Um, but it
And
just changed how I kinda saw how the business was gonna be run.
yeah,
And before that, I do a lot with community and a lot in that area, so I, coached children's running and did a lot of stuff with that. So it was always sort of, you know, 20% of my money would go back to whatever local charity. And so that then really became the more I work, the more I can do because
right.
there's so much need, right? So all at that same time that
Like
I was
building a school.
building it,
Yeah,
yep, had done, yep, and just more. We want to just help. That's our innate like desire. I think that's why we go into people's houses and want to make them so fabulous
right.
and help them have these lives. So I thought I'm either going to have to quit my job or get an office. So I got an office because I
Mhm.
didn't. You can't quit this job.
Right.
You know, it's who we are.
And was that a major pivotal point for you
Oh
in
my
your
gosh, it was
career?
so hard. The boys were actually really supportive. It was so
Were they
flippin'
in high
sweet.
school
They
at
were
the
in high
time?
school.
Yeah.
So, and for Matt, it was harder because, you know, having this job, I was at every single thing my kids did, um, and still managed our clients around it. So, you know, I wasn't as nearly as busy as I am now. I couldn't have been. I wouldn't trade that. But then when they were a little bit more self-sufficient, but for him it was a little like, and it's scary. It's a cost. And,
Yeah.
you know, what if there's a slower month or what if, you know, you've always got this overhead. And so, but we did it and couldn't. And here, the design center, same. Looked at another space. It wasn't available. And Howard Sims, who's our realtor
Mhm.
here, said, "Well, why don't you look over here?" I thought, "Oh, it's gonna be way too expensive," but
It
found a
worked
great
out.
spot and it worked out. And that's how I met you.
Mhm.
Going into your showroom and kind of feeling still, I didn't know because so then, you know, construction's been my love for all these years, and reimagining spaces and remodels were really it for a long time. I would love running through neighborhoods in the dark and seeing the lights come on in the kitchens that I had been
Mm.
in and realized that life that was starting every morning. There's something really cool about knowing
It's
what your
powerful.
impact was in those
Mm.
spaces. Um, but I needed to learn about soft stuff, so I learned a lot from your showroom, and you guys were always so gracious. And then here we, you know,
Here we are. So
fast
why the
forward.
podcast?
There's been multiple ones that I've thought over the years I've wanted to do. I love the interview process. I love getting right. We like to get to the nuts and bolts of
Yeah.
people, um, but nothing was really fitting. Like I don't. It just wasn't. And then we had our other, another idea to do some engagement stuff with, you know, education, and that's definitely your background. And I would
Mhm.
sit there with a pad of paper going, I hope she doesn't notice I haven't written on here, or I'm only doodling because
I don't know
I'll
what
start one here,
I don't
two
know what
goes
she's
down here,
talking
three
about.
is here.
Yeah.
Like you go, oh my gosh, I need a forensic. Who are those people who analyze handwriting?
A forensic I don't know.
Something.
Handwriting a
Yeah, mine
analyst,
might
I don't
come
know.
out as like murder or something. But so we thought about this, and this is feels like what we do all day anyways. We talk to people, we hear about stuff,
And
and we
maybe give
wanna
us an audience to be able to help aspiring designers, right? It's like we don't have anything to hide. We've been there and it's hard.
it is,
And
yeah.
the whole idea is for me is if we help other designers really covet the opportunity to go into people's homes and protect their dream and make places special. I can only do so many homes. You can only do so many homes. But if we inspire the next generation to really honor that commitment
Yeah.
and take it seriously and help them along the way, then we can help hundreds, maybe thousands more.
That's such a good point because it is that trickle down, and so when people feel like they might if hopefully they'll come to our podcast, they'll listen, they'll take stuff away that's not just our personal stuff, but really how we when there's more meaty stuff to, you know, from a contractor engagement and all of those other things. It's such a unique industry. And we are not all alone, but we are also a lot of us are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. I have a, you know, I have wonderful associate that works with me, Carrie, and she's backbone and CAD and does all these great things, and Mariana, who's doing social, and she's darling and as hell, and she creates great content. Um, and then we have all of the vendor people. So, but you feel like you're alone a lot.
Right.
And so hopefully this is a landing spot for people, and for if a client ever finds their way to this, for them to maybe hear like, oh, so when somebody gave me a bill for $5 it was actually 20 hours that person spent on that couch, but
Yeah.
they were too afraid to.
They only charged me
this because they didn't, because we want to find the perfect thing. So we will go down that many rabbit holes, but we also recognize the client doesn't necessarily have to pay for, I mean, they should, but it's
Not
hard for a
always.
client to get their head around it.
Do you still charge by the hour, or are you project-based?
Goodness, no, project-based.
Yeah. I think we should do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, and the reasons why.
Yes, I think that would be really good and maybe really interesting for people to hear about that transition. So I'm going to ask you like 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Your favorite breakfast food?
Oh my gosh, a smoothie.
That you make?
Yes.
Okay.
That I make
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite color to wear?
A silvery blue.
Oh, okay. Says the aspiring fashion designer.
I know, but it's that like I want to be. Well, it's what I want to dye wrapped in.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Noted. That got dark quick.
Really quick. Sorry.
Favorite flower?
Oh God, calla lily or peony? They're rivaling.
They're tied.
Tied.
Favorite genre of food?
Sushi, Thai, anything. Yeah.
I probably could have guessed that.
Okay. Yeah.
I just love you.
I just love you. Okay, my rapid fire.
Okay.
Favorite drink? Alcohol or otherwise? Doesn't, just what do you go for? What's your?
So as you well know, I'm close to a non-drinker, but I do love a glass of red wine every now and then. I love water. I know that probably sounds really boring, but I love a glass of water.
Okay. No. Okay. What is your favorite thing to do fitness-wise?
My favorite, I love walks. I love long walks.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite music to listen to?
80s, baby.
Okay.
And tell me that 80s is your favorite music. No?
Country.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so weird growing up
California.
I know. I got FAA in my FFA, whatever. Family
FFA.
members.
Yeah.
Future Farmers of America.
You
go.
It's in your bones.
It's in my bones. Favorite activity to do?
Favorite activity. I love to read.
Okay.
And I specifically love to read with all 3 of my wiener dogs in my lap. That is my
Not even
jam.
get to the dogs.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, then what's your favorite dog breed? Oh, you're
wiener dog. Yeah, wiener dog. We do. We have 3. Little Fokker is 15. And Minnie Cooper is 9, and Sadie Girl is 7. So, and you have your puppy.
I have Theo. Theo is all we can handle. He is batshit.
He's a piece of work.
He's a piece of work.
I love him.
He's the reason I was able to name our nonprofit. Yeah, my Border Collie brain, because he's just crazy
all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I think that everybody should know probably more about us than they wanted to know ever.
Sorry for the emotional stuff, guys.
I loved that you got emotional in my heart because I know you care so much about what we do.
And I have to say, my parents ultimately got back together after all of that crazy. My dad and my stepmom. So separation. Not everything is, not everything.
I'm so glad you said that because I was going to ask you when we were done.
So, anyways, I was like, oh my gosh, it took some time, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just having me live with them, and maybe my brother made some changes in their life that they weren't used to, and shifts your mentality, reframes how you think about your stuff.
I like that, and I hope that we have in some way reframed what people think about what it is to be and become an interior designer, because our paths are vastly different.
Well done, lady.
Well done. So we'd love for you to reach out to us at hello@reframingdesign.com if you have any comments about what you've heard or questions, or if you have an idea of what you'd like to hear us talk about. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Rainey Richardson Interiors.
And me at Cassandra_brand_interiors. And if you have any art that you would like for us to maybe have here, and you're a local Houston designer or artist, or even somewhere else, and you want to ship it to us, we would love
to showcase
your art. So share that with us. DM us and we're on Instagram
as well. Yep.
framing
And follow us, share us, like us, all those things so that we can reach more people. Thank you so much for joining us. And after this podcast, I'd like for you to sit and ask yourself, is there anything in your life that you would like to reframe? Take care. I love you.
Oh, that was awesome.